What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the Neighborhood Podcast. One of the hosts of the podcast. My name is Kyle Dabro. So in this video, we're going to go over our NFL Week 10 power rankings, very similar to what we've done in the past. We're going to start with the number 10 team in the NFL at this current moment in time, and then work our way down to the number 1 team when it's all said and done. So let's not waste any more time, and let's dive into these power rankings. So at number 10, I have the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the Ravens are coming off of a pretty bad loss against the Miami Dolphins in Week 10. And this loss against Miami, it's indicative of how Baltimore is set up this season. If Lamar Jackson is not playing at an elite level in every game that they play in, Baltimore as a whole, they are a vulnerable team. And it was quite shocking to see that the Baltimore Ravens only scored 10 points in this matchup against Miami. I was not expecting that. But when you look back at this game, Lamar could not get into a rhythm the whole night, and the offense couldn't produce a consistent running attack at all with Duvernay, Le'Veon Bell, or Devontae Freeman. And this is definitely a game that they'll want to have back when the season's over with, but I'm still of the mindset that Baltimore is a good team. They only have 3 losses this season, and they still sit at the top of the AFC North at this current moment in time. So I guess things could be worse if you're a Baltimore fan in that regard. They play against the Chicago Bears in Week 11, so I think that'll be a good opportunity for them to get back on track after this loss in Miami. Baltimore's still a good team. They're a top 10 team in my opinion, and that's why I have them at the number 10 spot. So number 9, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. This is the first time that I've had Kansas City in the top 10 for our power rankings in quite some time, and I think it's well deserved. And this game against the Raiders, for lack of a better phrase, the Chiefs winning this game was an about time moment for them. They scored over 40 points against the Raiders. The offense was humming the entire game against Vegas, and it resulted in their 3rd win in a row. I thought Patrick Mahomes had his best game of the year, and he reminded everybody that he's still one of, if not the best quarterback in the NFL at this current moment in time. Now, despite this 3-game winning streak that they've been on, I've still got to see more from the Chiefs, and it's going to take in the form of consistency. Before beating up the Raiders in this Sunday night matchup that they had, they did win their 2 previous games against the Packers and the Giants, but they had to scrape by those teams to win those ones. I mean, the Chiefs damn near lost to Jordan Love and the Packers when Green Bay only put up 7 points against them in Week 9. So consistency is the key for Kansas City here, and that's what I'm going to be looking forward to. And I think it's going to be tested in Week 11 when they have to play the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys are one of the best teams in the NFL. And if Casey was able to get a win against Dallas next week, I think that the Chiefs would hop into a top 5 position in the NFL at that point. And I think it would silence a lot of the critiques that the Chiefs have been facing for the last month or so. But we finally got to see the Chiefs back in form. I think it was a great win against the Raiders, but I'm still of the mindset that there's still more work to be done as far as Casey is concerned. But a great win, and one they definitely needed. And that's why I have them at number 9. So number 8, I have the New England Patriots. The Patriots absolutely stomped the Browns this past weekend. There's no other way around it. Offensively, they scored 45 points against Cleveland, and they controlled the pace of the game from beginning to end in this one. The Patriots had 3 drives of over 90 yards that resulted in touchdowns against the Browns, and it really encapsulated an excellent offensive performance from New England in this one. On the other side of the ball, I thought defensively the Patriots played outstanding. They held Cleveland to only 7 points and held Baker Mayfield to under 100 yards passing. There's not much more that you could do or ask of them than what they did in this matchup against Cleveland. It was a well-rounded win for the Patriots, and I think that this win put the AFC and the NFL on notice with the way that they beat the Browns in this one. The Patriots are currently on a 4-game win streak. I think Bill Belichick has done a phenomenal job coaching this team throughout this stretch. And this team looks to be rounding into form at the right time. Now, they do hit the road to play the Falcons on Thursday night, so they will be playing on short rest. And I think it is definitely going to test the players and the coaching staff to get ready to go on that 3 to 4 day rest that they are currently on. All in all, though, the Patriots are a team on the rise, and it does seem oddly familiar that they're in this territory once again after Tom Brady departed the team about a year and a half ago. But the Patriots look like a great team right now. And I think they're getting everybody's attention, and that's why I have them at number 8. So number 7, I had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers suffered a terrible loss to the Washington football team in Week 10, and there's a lot of criticism to go around here on this one. I thought Tom Brady was off of his game in the first half. Now, he did recover in the second half, but it was just too much of a hole for Tampa to get out of. And then defensively, that Buccaneers defense could not stop Taylor Heineke and that Washington offense. And the result of this loss is that the Buccaneers have lost back-to-back games. It's really been the turnovers that have been hurting the Bucs lately. Tom Brady's had 5 turnovers in the last 2 games, and it's definitely hurt the team. And defensively, in some of the most crucial moments of the game, there's one moment in particular where I'm going to focus on. At the end of the game, they gave up a 19-play, 10.5-minute drive to Washington at the end of the fourth quarter, which resulted in the game-sealing touchdown. You just can't have that in any way, shape, or form. I'm still of the mindset that the Bucs are a good team, but this was an unacceptable loss, and they're going to have to get it back on track really quickly because they play the Giants on Monday night next week. And based off of the matchup that the Giants gave them last year, I think it's going to be a tougher game than I think a lot of people are expecting going into this one. So there is a chance that Antonio Brown and Rob Gronkowski could be available for that Monday night game against the Giants. And I'm of the mindset that the Bucs are going to need them at this point. Things are a little shaky in Tampa right now, but I'm not to the point where it's outright concern yet. And I think that there's a good opportunity for the Bucs to return to form, correct their mistakes, and get a solid win at home against the Giants next week. They fall out of the top 5. It's been a while since I've had them out of the top 5, but I have them at number 7 in this week's power rankings. At number 6, I have the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams got absolutely beat down by the 49ers on Monday night, and I thought it was just a disgraceful performance from the Rams in this one. The Rams were coming into this game 7-2. But the 49ers were the ones that looked like the 7-2 team coming into this game, not LA, who had that record coming in. I'm of the mindset that the bye week for the Rams is coming at a good time because they really need to reassess this team after 2 bad losses in a row to the 49ers and the Titans. Hopefully Odell Beckham Jr. will get caught up to speed with the Rams playbook during this week 11 bye. And that Matt Stafford, man, he needs to rekindle some of the magic that he was able to provide LA earlier on in the season because he has looked absolutely horrible in these last 2 losses for the Rams. He's had pick sixes in both of those games that they've lost, and he hasn't done much to dig themselves out of those deficits in both games. And when I look at the Rams defense, I think the 49ers might have exposed them to a certain extent because San Fran was able to own the line of scrimmage in their run game. And they were able to convert, on third down consistently against LA. There's definitely some holes in this Rams team that San Fran exposed. And Sean McVay is definitely going to have his work cut out for him in this bye week to get the Rams ready for week 12. So they also fall out of the top 5. I've had them in the top 5 religiously this season, but I have them at number 6 in this week's power rankings. So number 5, I have the Buffalo Bills. The Bills returned to form after just demolishing the Jets in week 10. And it was a much needed win after losing to the Jaguars in week 9, which, to be quite honest with you guys, that loss to the Jaguars is as close to abhorrent as possible when it comes to the NFL in that regard. But they were able to get a good win against the Jets, and looks like they're kind of back on track in this one. But I do have to say this about Buffalo. The Bills have to be on point from here on out because the Patriots are only a half game back of them for first place in the AFC East. And the Bills' schedule is not favorable for them for the next month or so. They got to play the Colts, Saints, the Patriots, and the Buccaneers for their next 4 games. This stretch that Buffalo's heading into, it is not going to be easy. And it's definitely going to test this team moving forward. But I've said this before about Buffalo. They are one of the most well-rounded teams in the NFL. Their personnel on both the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball is just spectacular. And it's one of the many reasons why I have Buffalo as a top 2 team in the AFC. But they're going to have to rise to the occasion in this next month or so to continue to prove that for the next month or so. A good win against the Jets, but schedule does not get easier for the Bills here, and that's why I have them at number 5. So number 4, I have the Arizona Cardinals. There's not much to say about the Cardinals here. They didn't have Kyler Murray or DeAndre Hopkins in this loss to the Carolina Panthers. I understand that the Cardinals lost to the Panthers by 24 points, but I don't think that this game reflects the Cardinals in any way whatsoever. Once they get Kyler back in for them, this team should return to form fairly quickly, and I really have no doubts about that. They play the Seahawks next week, which looks to be a favorable matchup for them if Kyler plays. If Kyler doesn't play, the Cardinals could slip to 8-3, but I'm not really too worried about Arizona here. They're one of the best teams in the NFL this season, and I think it will continue once again once they get healthy as a team moving forward. But with that said, we'll transition to our number 3 team, and that is going to be the Tennessee Titans. I just don't know how to say it other than this, but the Titans just keep on winning. And they beat the Saints in a pretty close one in Week 10, and they have now pulled off 6 straight wins. And I've got to give a lot of credit to Mike Vrabel here, just because he is getting this team ready to play no matter who they're going up against. And that's despite the fact that Tennessee as a whole, they clearly miss Derrick Henry's production in the run game. But the focal point lately is that Tennessee's defense has stepped up notably since Derrick Henry has been out due to injury. They're forcing turnovers. They're getting several sacks a game, not just 1 or 2. They're getting at least 4 to 5 sacks a game. And it's resulting in not a lot of points being scored against them. And when I look at Tennessee's upcoming schedule, it is quite favorable for them. Outside of playing the Patriots and the Steelers in the next couple weeks, the rest of their games are fairly winnable. This team, in regards to the Titans, they're only one bad loss against the Jets from being 9-1, and I find it absolutely incredible with what they've been able to accomplish as a team this season. I still have them as the best team in the AFC at this current moment in time, and even though they do take a slight step back from last week's power rankings, they're still a very good team to contend with. I think once they get Derrick Henry back, if he returns this season after that foot surgery that he had, I think the Titans could definitely be possibly a Super Bowl contender when it's all said and done. But for this week, I have them as the number 3 team in our power rankings. So number 2, I have the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys just absolutely put a beat down on the Atlanta Falcons this past week. I mean, they won against Atlanta by 40 points. And Dallas definitely needed this win after taking a pretty bad loss at home to Denver in Week 9. But this was as well-rounded a win that you can get from a team. And the Cowboys reassert themselves as one of the best teams in the NFC after this performance. I thought Dak had a great game. Defensively, they were stout. Trayvon Diggs got his 8th interception for the season. I mean, there's not much else to say here about the Cowboys. When this team is rolling, they are a top 2, top 3 team in the NFL, and they have just proved it week in and week out, and I think it will continue moving forward. So I don't have them at number 1. I was thinking about putting them at number 1, but I do have one team ahead of them. But with the Cowboys here, they've been playing phenomenal this year, and that's why I have them at the number 2 spot. And then at the number 1 spot, I have the Green Bay Packers. Packers reclaimed that number 1 spot that they lost a couple weeks back. And even though that they didn't have their greatest performance against the Seattle Seahawks, I got to give them credit, because that game against the Seahawks, it was primarily a defensive battle, despite the fact that you have Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson in one of the most anticipated quarterback matchups that you'll see the entire season. But I thought the Packers win in this one was special, because it's indicative of how this team is winning games this year. They're winning these games in kind of a gritty, kind of a dirty fashion. And I don't mean dirty in a bad way. It's just that they're not going out there and winning these games by 3 or 4 touchdowns where Aaron Rodgers is just lighting it up in every way, shape, or form. They're getting great run production from Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon, absolutely a abused Seattle in that game this past weekend. And even though that Aaron Jones is going to be out for possibly a week or two after he suffered a mild MCL sprain, I think once he gets back into the rotation, the Packers are going to be just fine. The biggest thing that I want to focus on, though, with the Packers from this game was the fact that they limited Seattle to 0 points. They shut them out. And I thought that was probably the most impressive feat of the entire week because if memory serves me right, I think this is the first time that Russell Wilson has been shut out in his NFL career. And the Packers were the first team to do that. And I got to give a lot of credit to the Packers in that regard for being able to do that. Great win for the Packers. They're currently sitting at the top of the NFC, and I have them at the top of the NFL in our power rankings. And with that said, that's why I have them at number 1. And other than that, you guys, that's pretty much all I got to say. So if you guys like the video, hit that like button below. If you guys want to support the channel in any way, shape, or form, hit that subscribe button below. Any sort of support that we can give for the channel, Kevin and I definitely appreciate it. Just once again, just want to thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you guys later.